Hello, I'm Jerry Patterson, host of Report to the People, and thank you for tuning in to our show. We're happy to showcase weekly Taking the Eye Out of Violence, a program featuring 6th through 9th graders residing, going to church, school, or who are a part of a community organization in the Inglewood, Bronzeville, and West Inglewood communities in Chicago. Taking the Eye Out of Violence is a program with the host Rebecca Daly Woolley. So sit back and let's go to her right now. Thank you for watching.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Daly Woolley, and I am the host of Taking the Eye Out of Violence television program. This production is an anti-violence project that focuses on speaking with youth who are in the 6th through 9th grade. These youth live, attend school, and participate in community programs in the Illinois 3rd Legislative District, specifically the communities of Inglewood, West Inglewood, and Bronzeville. Each episode, you will see real discussions with these students at various locations in these communities. If you are a student, community leader, or someone who has personally been impacted by violence and would like to participate in this program to share your thoughts on potential solutions to stop the violence, please contact Mebe Media Group Productions at 708-533-6558. You can also learn more about the program at www.takingtheeyeoutofviolence.com. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Daly Woolley, host of Taking the Eye Out of Violence After School television program. We're excited that you could join us for this week's episode. We have special guests and we'll be talking about violence in the city of Chicago and what these young people see every day. So we'll get started. Hi everyone.
Hello.
What's everyone's names?
I'm Cray.
Hi Cray.
I'm Marquise.
Hi Marquise. So you all probably see a lot when you go to school each day as it relates to violence, and I'm just curious, what are some common things that you're seeing amongst people your age as it relates to violence?
Well, in my school, this boy and this girl, they were dating, and then they broke up, and they got into a fight, and the boy actually beat up the girl. And the reason why it happened is because the boy went to go talk to his new girlfriend, and I guess his old girlfriend got jealous and hit him in the face or something, and they just started fighting.
So there was a boy and a girl fighting at your school during school hours.
Yeah.
So that was probably really traumatic for the staff and the students to see a boy fighting a girl.
Yes, but the students, they didn't care. They were just happy to see a fight.
They were just happy to see a fight.
Yeah.
And what exactly happened once the fight was stopped?
The boy was suspended. He got a 10-day suspension, and the girl, I guess she got suspended for 2 days or something. I don't know what happened to the girl. But the boy was in my class, so I knew.
But you're saying the girl initiated the fight,
right?
And the boy didn't back down,
right?
Is that something that you see a lot? Girls and boys fighting, is that common?
No.
No.
I mean, like, they play fight, but it's nothing serious.
Okay. Well, that's pretty heavy.
Right.
And have you been seeing any incidents of violence in your school, Marquise?
Well, it's a lot that happens. Well, there's a lot of gang affiliations, selling of drugs, and a lot of fighting in the school because of it.
Okay. And do you feel like you're safe in school?
Sometimes. I mean, certain parts have no cameras around, and certain parts aren't really protected by any security guards.
Okay. And have you been impacted recently by something that might have been violent?
Yes. About 2 weeks ago, I was on the CTA bus, and I had a conflict between two high schoolers from another school, and they jumped me on the bus. And when me and my mom confronted the CTA bus driver of it, they claimed that they didn't see anything, and we filed a police report and everything, and it's getting handled.
Well, I'm glad you all took a response because you want to feel safe when you're traveling on public transportation. So thank you for sharing that. And as it relates to being a young man in Chicago growing up, young man of color, what are some of the things that you all face? What do you feel that you face as young man of color?
I mean, like prejudice, it's still out there, but it's just not really that popular. But me, I was never a victim of prejudice.
Okay.
Yeah, just never was.
What are some things that you just every day going about just as a young man of color growing up in Chicago, if you had to paint a picture of what that looks like, what does that look like?
Well, it's very prejudiced. When I'm by myself after school with me and my friends, we'll be hanging out and we'll be stopped by the police and they'll think we're doing something, but we're really just hanging out together, just walking.
Has that happened recently?
Not really. I mean, during lunch periods maybe, but not recently.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about what happens when you're stopped by the police in an instance like that.
Well, it's usually when we're walking to get something to eat from the gas station or the nearby McDonald's of the school, and
Because you have like off-campus lunch. So for people who might be watching off-campus lunch, the students are allowed during their period to get something within the community or even go home and eat if that's what they choose to do.
yes, and me and my friends will be walking and we'll be stopped by the police and they'll think we'll be doing something and they'll check us and search all over our bodies for different types of drugs or any weapons that we may be concealing.
And how does that make you feel, or what do you and your friends think when that happens? What do you say?
Well, we don't say anything. We just feel frustrated in the inside because it happens a lot.
It happens too often.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's something that for you to be so young, that it's unfortunate that you would have to experience, you know, in your journey as a young person, just going about every day in Chicago. What are some things that you think young people your age in general might just experience growing up in Chicago?
I know they may experience, unsafety because of like all the violence and the gang affiliation, unsafeness. It just depends where you live at, because like some places it's like really mellowed down and there's like barely any violence. Then there are other places where there's a lot of violence.
Okay. What do you think young people your age just in general might be experiencing?
Well, one thing I know is sex. It's 30% of the girls in my school have gotten pregnant already, and other things that they experience is having guns or showing off that they have drugs or anything in the school, and they may get caught for it.
So is that something that you see a lot within school, people trying to show off what they're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like that they get in trouble?
They do sometimes when they get caught, but not often.
Okay. If you all could paint a picture of Chicago and it looked the way you wanted it to look, whatever that means to you, what would Chicago look like?
I would actually paint, if it was like ideal Chicago, like a utopia, I would actually paint just people walking around, minding their own business, cleaning up the streets and stuff.
Okay. How about you, Marquise?
Well, I actually agree with Cray with cleaning up the streets, and I also like to add on with maybe some people helping the elders across the street or like civilization type things that people may do.
So definitely keeping our neighborhoods more clean, definitely looking out for our elders, and maybe being more respectful.
Yes, definitely.
So of our communities and of others around us.
Yes.
Of course.
Well, that's really awesome advice. And as it relates to young people, what do you think, Marquise, are some ways that young people can try to stay safe within school?
Well, we can try to not make friends with a lot of the gang members or claim to be gang members in the school. Like we can have an acquaintance relationship, but we can't really want to be friends on the outside because you don't want to get involved in any of that.
Right. So be careful who you are friends with, because you don't want people to get the wrong
Picture.
impression and think that you might be a part of a group that you have nothing to do with. I agree. Anything you would add to that, Cray?
You should always know who you're around, and you should always know your surroundings, because I don't think anyone specifically said this, but there was a quote that says, "A man is known by the friends he keeps." So if you stay around people who they smoke weed or whatever, and kill people or rape somebody, you're gonna be known to be around them a lot. So people won't particularly trust you more. But if you know by very trustworthy people and people who have good morals, then you would be known to you be trusted more, and people think you have a good moral.
Well, you just made me think of something, which is sometimes a lot of people have opinions about what's going on in our communities in Chicago. And sometimes people have an opinion that young people don't have a choice, that you have to join a gang, that you have to, just to survive. Would you agree with that, Marquise?
Well, it depends on what type of family you have. I know some people at my school, like, they're forced to join gangs or, like, be in that type stuff because their parents want them to, and their parents are in it also. But, like, people like me, like, I wouldn't really condone any of that, and my mom and dad, of course, don't condone any of that type of stuff.
So you have choices, but sometimes, depending on what type of parents you have, you might not have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, because maybe people don't realize that some of the role models that young people have aren't positive role models. There was a student who told me a few weeks ago, he or she said, some of the older men that some of these young males are seeing are doing bad things. So that's all they have to look up to. So you all are both fortunate to have very positive role models in your life, in your lives, who can say, that's not going to happen. And what do you want to be when you grow up, Marquise?
Well, sports doesn't work out, of course. I would try to be a culinary institute teacher.
Oh, okay.
I'll be on my way to doing that by my junior year in high school, taking college bridge classes at University of Chicago.
Oh, okay, so you got everything mapped out. That's cool. And Cray, I know we've asked you before, but what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a CIA agent.
Okay. And what inspired you to be a CIA agent?
Well, when I started watching CSI Miami and and like House and stuff like that, I got very interested in it, and like Law and Order, Criminal Intent. I just got very interested in it, and then I was thinking maybe a police officer, but then I thought about becoming a CIA agent to move higher in the ranks and get better perks for myself.
Okay.
But it's not just because of the perks. I'm just really interested in it.
Okay. And what inspired the culinary teacher?
Well, I like watching the cooking channel a lot, so
yeah, I do too.
I've always thought of, if I made my own mix to certain type of foods and I could show it to other people, then my recipe would be spread it out throughout the world.
Okay, you can become a huge name. Are there some things that you like to cook?
Yeah. Well, I'm starting off small by cooking like small things like spaghetti and stuff, but
that's not too small.
I usually add something of my own to what I make, like cayenne pepper or something like that.
I like cayenne pepper.
And kind of make it kind of spicy, and it seems to my family that they enjoyed it, so I'm going to keep trying that.
So you're already starting to remix recipes. Well, that's pretty cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation. Your voices are so, so important. And I think that if more people got to hear your voices and other young people's voices, it might make a difference in our community. So one last question. If there was something that you would want an adult to know about things that are going on in Chicago, things that are going on in schools, things that are going on in our community, or things that we could do to help keep Chicago safe, what would you tell someone watching the program today?
Well, I would tell them to watch out for certain types of bullying, and if you see anything, just speak up and tell an official, like maybe the police or even the CTA driver that was on my bus, maybe. I mean, just say something.
Okay. And how about you, Cray?
I would tell them to, like, after the kids come home from school, ask them how's their day, and they say good. Just keep pressuring them to answer your questions, because sometimes they may be hiding stuff from you. Because, like, some kids, they don't want to tell their parents what's going on because they don't want to be seen as a punk or as weaker.
And so do you all both see that, where young people don't necessarily communicate enough with their parents?
Yeah, a lot in my school.
So parents, ask questions, and according to Craig, pressure them if you have to. When they come home after a long day at school and you've come home after a long day of work, talk to them, communicate with them, ask them what's going on, because if you don't ask, you might not know what's going on. That is like really awesome advice, because I think sometimes if you don't ask and if you don't continue to ask, you think that everything is okay because your child might not say anything to you.
Right.
So that's great advice. Well, at this moment, we will be right back.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Hello, my name is Lavelle Faulkner and I'm 10 years old. Look, I just want to grow up and go to high school. I want a peaceful life without gangs and without bullying. I want to go to school to learn. I don't want to go to school and think about guns and violence. Let's make this a better world for everyone. Stop the gangs, stop the shootings, stop the bullying, stop the violence. I'm Lavelle Faulkner. Let's take the I out of violence.
We have some young ladies here that I'd like to speak with about what's going on in their world as young ladies and as young people living or working, playing in the city of Chicago. So we'll get started. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
What's your names?
I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Jordan.
Well, welcome to Taking the Eye Out of Violence. I'm excited to have you here today. So we'll get started. What are some things that young people your age are experiencing right now? So if you had to paint a picture of a day in the life of a young person your age, what would that look like?
Like as of now or how?
As of now.
I would see it as very scary or very like you have to protect yourself more, like that.
Okay. And what are you seeing, Jordan?
I'm seeing like you can't be a kid anymore. Like say you're a certain age and you're supposed to not act like an adult, but the way things are now out here, you have to stick up for yourself and you have to live like an adult basically on a regular basis.
So you have to live like an adult. Tell me, what are you said the way that things are now. How are things?
All the violence and all the things that happen, like gun violence, like you have 8-year-olds walking around with guns now. It's a problem. It's a big problem. And apparently boys want to walk up on females, such as, say for example, me and Jasmine were walking down the street and you reject them. They have an attitude and they'll pull you over and they will jump you for stuff like that.
Really?
My friend got jumped about that.
So tell me what happened. Just because that's something that's new for me. So for those of you who are watching, Jordan is basically describing a situation where young boys may attack a young girl if they are offended that she isn't interested in them. So kind of walk me through what happened with your friend.
All right, it was me, her, and her nephew, and we were on the train, red line. And so it was some boys on there. I'm not going to say they weren't attractive, but they just weren't her type. And so she was talking, and they tried to talk to her, and she said no. So by the time we got off, they had her hair, and they were pulling her off, and like they were moving her nephew out of the way. I couldn't do anything because it's 3 different boys, and so they started jumping her. Had to call her mom and her dad. Had to take her to the hospital.
Did anybody do anything? Go
No,
on
everybody
the
walked
L?
away.
Everybody walked away. Wow. So even employees that might have worked for
Nope.
Okay, so just kind of ignored it. Now, that's pretty crazy. I mean, how do you even stay safe on the, because that's come up before in another conversation I had with a young person. It was a young man, and he was attacked on the CTA. What do you think young people can do to stay safe? Because you have to travel, you have to move around, and what do you think you can do?
I mean, personally, I don't think you can do anything because you can't control what other people are thinking and how they're ticking time bombs.
Now, as it relates to things that may be going on in your schools right now, what are some trends or what are the type of things that you're seeing as it relates to violence?
I see a lot of bullying, a lot of fights, a lot of stealing, like
Stealing of
things.
people's property.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you all have really good property. So iPhones, iPads, things like that, people are stealing that. So what exactly happens? How do they have access to other people's things? Are they robbing them? Are they taking them from their locker?
Yeah, taking it from their locker, breaking in lockers, or taking it from them hand by hand, like just taking it like that.
Gotcha. What are some things that you're seeing in your school?
I see a lot of bullying daily because I do go to a big school, and it's really wild. Like, you have to tell an adult, like, right away. And, like, recently we had a fight there between a boy and a girl, and they were a couple, but, like, she hit him in his face, and he was going to let it pass. But then she hit him again, and it hurt his jaw. So he just, like, started hitting her repeatedly in her face until she got to the floor. And, like, all the teachers had to rush out the classrooms. And, everyone makes a big commotion. So violence basically is something that gets rooted on now. Like, keep going, or stealing. Oh, you did that, that's what's up. And it's not.
So some young people are encouraging forms of violence or just bad things to happen. It's like almost encouraged, you feel like, to do? To be like cool, and I know y'all might not use the word cool, but to be popular is kind of cool to do bad things, you think?
Yeah, in a way.
In a way? Gotcha. And have either of you been impacted personally by violence?
I've been bullied, but that's about it.
And was that when you were younger, or is that something more recent?
When I was younger.
And what exactly happened?
Like, it felt like how in the past, how like they would like push like black people around like that, like wipe their shoes off or tell me to get this, get that for them. But it was like, it wasn't small, but to me it was big. Like, yeah.
What did you do what was your response? What did you do?
I didn't do anything because I guess I was afraid to tell someone, but I never told anyone like how I was bullied. Like, I wouldn't go home and like say, oh, this happened to me today. Like, I would just keep it to myself and hope that it would go away or like things like that. But I never told anyone like it would happen other than the people that it happened around.
And how did it stop, you think?
I don't even know. Like, it just started to go away, like, real bit by bit, piece by piece. Like, people just stopped messing with me, I guess. But, I mean, I didn't do anything about it. I didn't tell anyone. But it just started going away as I got older.
What would you recommend to someone who might be watching today and maybe they may be getting picked on, bullied, just someone's making them feel uncomfortable in school? What would you recommend that they do?
I would recommend for them to tell someone, or like if you don't want to do that, at least tell an adult that you trust, because that will help a lot. And don't go to the wrong people. Go to like people with experience and like get advice from them, because it will help.
Awesome. Good advice from you. And Jordan, have you personally been impacted by violence or someone you know?
Yeah, I have been impacted by violence. My friend got killed by playing basketball one day. He had nothing to do with it and everything. And they just drove by and he got hit in the neck and tried to run out, but didn't make it.
Okay, and I think what you're talking about was like a really major news story in Chicago. How did you find out about it when it happened?
Actually, I was out of town when I found out. My friend, she texted me and was like, he got killed. And I was like, don't play. She was like, I'm serious. So then I called some other people. They was like, yeah, he got killed. And then it was like they finna make the funeral arrangements and everything. And then my mom called because the place they had the repast, her boyfriend owns it. And so it was really big and I had to fly back out.
Gotcha. And what were young people, because it was a young man, what were young people your age, your friends, what was everyone's response to what had happened?
It was like really devastating because he was the type of person when he came in, he just like brightened up the room and everybody else felt like a loss because, he was a good basketball player. He was a type of person who didn't do anything to anyone. So like it hurt a lot and it impacted us all a lot.
Do you think that anybody behaved differently after that happened?
Yeah, some of my other friends did. But we still celebrate like his birthday and stuff. So on his birthday we'd go to the beach and let balloons up and everything.
Oh, that's an awesome way to remember someone. I'm sure he's grateful that you all are keeping his memory alive. And as it relates to young women of color, just day in the life of what you may be experiencing that maybe people don't know about, what would you say that you all face as young girls? Anything unique that maybe people don't know about? Could be anything.
Yeah, I guess like boys, they just don't respect females a lot and they think they could get with you any type of way and everything. So they'll touch you and they'll like shove you around and think it's cute in front of their friends, or say in a relationship. They'll push you around and they'll act like they're in control of you and they think it's a good look when it's really not.
Okay, so do you see that a lot where young girls or young women are in like abusive relationships?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's really common?
Yeah.
Why do you think, I'm just curious, and I know you may not know, but why do you think they continue to be in that relationship?
I mean, personally, from personal experiences that I've heard, they're like, I love him, I need him, and it's, you don't need anyone who's beating on you.
Okay. Do you think that they know better?
Not at all.
You don't think anyone's teaching them, like...
I don't, not personally.
Okay, so they don't know any better. What are some things that, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, but I mean, with our age, it's not really that common, but if you see it a lot and you go through and you feel the pain that the people or the person that go through abusive relationships and things like that, it doesn't help us grow any more than we should grow and move on as a city, as violence related. But I don't think people should like feel like they, like she said, like need them, because you can't change a person or how they act or how they think. But like,
so in your schools, do they advise young people not to be in abusive relationships?
no.
Is that type of thing discussed?
My school discusses it because there's a lot of couples there that the teachers are aware of. And so, yeah, they advise, like, don't get in a relationship if you already see that you all are talking and things aren't going well, and don't overdo your parts and everything. Like, we don't want to see any of the boys hitting on any of our females. We don't want to see any of the boys doing anything inappropriate to the females, and the females go to the same as you.
And you said at your school they don't.
They don't. Like, the teachers or any adults at my school, like, if they see, like, couples or boys and girls holding hands, doing anything appropriate, inappropriate, they wouldn't like, they'll look at it and tell you to stop, but they wouldn't like pay any attention to it. Like they wouldn't say they're for or against it.
They just have no opinion.
Right. To me, I feel like the teachers there they just come to get their job done, which is to teach and not, give their opinions like that.
Well, if you were talking to someone today, so someone who's watching, maybe an adult who needs to hear about what's going on kind of in young people's worlds and what they could do about it, what would be some things that you would encourage adults to pay attention to as it relates to young people?
I would say pay attention to their attitudes, how they change, and how they grow. Pay attention to that, and make sure that there's nothing wrong, or always ask them, "Are you okay?" Or, check up on them daily.
How about you?
I say the same as Jasmine, but if you're a parent of a young person our age, I say, especially for, young man, young woman, I say, as she did, watch their attitudes and watch their actions. And as much freedom as we have, you could take some of it away, because that's what's getting a lot started.
Oh, wow. Okay, so definitely be mindful, it sounds like, of what your young people are doing, ask questions, and be cautious of how much free time they have on their hands, because maybe it's a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your honesty, both of you. You all shared some really good advice, and it was really nice to hear your perspective about what young people are experiencing in Chicago. So thank you so much for joining our conversation, and at this moment, we'll be right back.
Can you consent with me? Imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read. 'Cause every kid across the nation deserves a book to read, and we can make it happen right now. No, I don't know what you've been told, but kids with books learn so much more. So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child. So let's join hands, book people unite, unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time. Planting seeds of inspiration to motivate some magic. To change the writing on the wall, writing on the wall. And make a difference. One book can inspire a child. One book can be the first element. Helps to change a life. People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Daly Woolley, host of Taking the Eye Out of Violence after school television program. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. I have some wonderful guests, 3 young black men from the Black Star Project, who will be speaking with us today about their experiences in Chicago. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. Hello.
How are you all doing today?
I'm doing good.
And what is everyone's names?
My name is Kyle. My name is Nicholas. My name is Josh.
Okay. And if you had to define the word violence, how would you define it?
I guess I would define the word violence as an unnecessary action that takes its place when someone's feel threatened, or their verbal conversation isn't good enough to prove their point, so they think that they have to escalate it more to a physical level instead of keeping it at a calm level that it should be.
Okay. And do you see violence in your school at all?
Yes, I do.
What type of violence do you see in your school?
I see conflicts or arguments, or it'd be teacher with teacher. Or it'd be student student with student, or a teacher with another student.
Okay.
So.
And do you feel safe in your school?
No, I don't feel very safe in my school because of the lack of security. There have been times in my school when a student has snuck into my school and stayed there the entire school day.
The entire school day? And they're not a student?
Not a student. the entire school day, and then they broke out with a fight with a student that does go to my school at the end of the day, and they really hurt that student.
Really? So was that something that happened recently, or since you've been going to the school?
It happened recently, but it was before I came.
Okay. And I guess that made a lot of the students feel kind of unsafe.
Yeah, it did.
Did anybody know that the student wasn't, like while they were in school that day, that they weren't really a part of the school?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, so I don't really know, but I don't think they really noticed it.
Wow. Wow. Has there been any things that have happened at your school that has like left a memory that you can't shake?
No, not that.
No? Okay. What about within your communities? So looking at just something that may have happened in your community, is there anything that's happened? Yes.
Oh, well, one of my friends got killed in my neighborhood across the street from my house.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you mind sharing what happened?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, you don't have to share. And have you all been personally impacted by violence?
Yes, violence has hit home in a sort of way. It hit one of my close friends recently. I'd rather not talk about it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that. And when are you feeling moments of unsafety when you're not in school? So do you have moments when you don't feel safe?
Sometimes I have moments I don't feel safe because my mom sometimes isn't everywhere, pick me up and drop me off, so I have to walk, take the bus and everything. And like sometimes, it'll get dark. Like before, it got dark real early, so it'll just be darkness, and like you'll see people walking up in the hoods just looking suspicious, and you just get that feeling like, something's about to happen, or like you shouldn't be here because something's gonna happen. But I always try to pull through it, but sometimes I just don't like walking anywhere like at night by myself because I've heard stories like a lot of times people just like things happen to them, they got jumped or they got approached by a gang member or something. So like walking home in dark and stuff, that gives me sometimes the feeling where I don't feel I'm at my safest.
Okay. And do you all see that a lot with people in your age group where they may have been jumped on or they might be approached to be in a gang? Is that something that's common?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Okay. And do you know anyone who has personally been experienced that?
I know
No? Okay.
I know the people that do it though. Like I know some people that does that stuff, but I don't communicate myself with them though.
Okay.
I had a friend who experienced that. It's just yesterday. We were at this after school program we go to, and it was getting pretty late and it was dark, and he had to go home, and it was like a good 30 blocks away. So he wanted me to walk him to the bus stop, and we were walking, and I walked him to the bus stop and everything. And then this morning he called me, and I called him, make sure everything was okay, and he told me that last night that a whole bunch of things happened. Like at first he got approached by this dude. He tried to rob him. He said that he wanted his shoes. He told him to take off his shoes and everything, and he said he had to run. He had to get away, and then he said it was just a whole bunch of different things that happened that night.
And how do you all stay safe? What do you do to stay safe?
Just stay away from the negative people.
Stay away from negative people?
Yeah.
What I do to stay safe is when I'm walking home, when it's dark and everything, I try to stick to the lightest streets, with all the street lights and a lot of cars going past, so I'm not just walking down some dark street where something could happen, no one will even know.
So staying in well-lit areas, okay, when you can, definitely, okay.
What I do to stay safe is when I'm not inside a building, I try to, if I can, walk with some people that I know, some friends, like a group of us, so if something does happen, I have people that can help me in a situation. And what Nicholas says, I try to stay in areas that are well-lit, like main streets where there are a lot of people at, and that really helps me feel a little bit safer.
Okay. Well, there are probably people who are watching today, young people, older people who might not have an idea of what it's like growing up in Chicago. And there's no right or wrong answer, but if you had to describe what it is you know, how it's like growing up as a young person of color in Chicago, a young man. How would you describe that? What would you say?
It's rough.
It's
I'd
rough?
say it's rough because sometimes you can't even leave out the house without, you know, having to worry about somebody like doing this to you, doing that to you.
So you said it's rough. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can't even leave out the house without worrying about what's going to happen to you or somebody doing something to you. Okay. How about you two?
I would say that it's hard because it's not only like things that happen to you, like you get jumped or something, but it's mostly like sometimes it's peer pressure, you know, getting approached by gang members like wanting you to be in a gang or something. And I had this friend that I knew since kindergarten, and we were real close. But then he started, you know, doing drugs, and then he got into a gang, and then we just grew more and more apart. And it was like, he was one of my best friends, and it's like whoever, he was like one of those real friends, like you can talk to, you can come to say whatever you need, and like he won't judge you. But then he got into peer pressure and everything, and gangs and all that, and it just made us grew apart, and you know, makes you realize how big of a city it is and how alone you are.
You said how big it makes you realize how big of a city it is and
Yeah.
how alone you are.
And how easy someone could like get just dragged into something that they had no business doing.
Well, you all are really sharing some powerful stories and some interesting perspectives because you're saying that there was a young man who grew up with you since kindergarten. So essentially, you all had similar paths, and he just went one way, but thank goodness it wasn't you, but he made some decisions, and now same age, similar experiences, except he went a different route. Okay. How does that make you feel when you kind of reflect, like, what do you think to yourself? Because this was somebody who you were close to and somebody who had a similar background as you.
I feel sorry for him that he had to go down that path, and that like he could have like avoided it. But I'm also like kind of grateful because, like you said, we had the same path. Like it could have been very well me, you know, in the gang, you know, not where I am now, you know, going to neighborhood schools and not really trying. So I feel sorry for him at one time, but kind of grateful that it didn't happen to me.
Okay. And for you, what, you know, how would you describe a day in the life of, or just what you see?
What I feel is because there's so much violence in Chicago, it creates a prejudice on young black men that's what we do. We just do violent things, we rob, we steal, we shoot. And I have an example of that. One of my friends was walking downtown with one of his other friends, wasn't doing anything. A police officer came and pulled him over because someone had recently got robbed at a jewelry store and the person was black. He didn't fit any other description but being black, and I just felt that that was really prejudiced of them to think that he would do that.
And how did your friend feel?
He felt the same way I did. Like, how are you going to just arrest me when I don't even fit the description? I'm wearing something completely different. I'm not even his height. He didn't even have the same hairstyle. Like, how are you going to just arrest me because I'm black?
Well, what do you think are some solutions for young people your age to stay safe, and you know, what are some decisions that they can make? What are some things that they can do to just maintain and survive?
I think what they need to do is find positive role models in their life.
Okay.
Like what we did at Black Star. We have a mentor that try to keep us on the right path, and I think he's doing a good job at that.
Okay.
And not only find good role models, but peers. Like find peers that you know are gonna try to be something in life, that are doing good.
I think a way to stay safe is to like not get consumed by like peer pressure and all the things. And like when you do things, think of it as a long term. Like that's the thing. People like nowadays, like they'll drop out of school and like try and get a job or something because they're thinking about the now. They're not thinking for that delayed reaction that happens later on in life that has more effect on it. They want things now. So that's mostly why probably some people do what they do, because they're not thinking about what's gonna happen later on. They just think about making this, making it's quick money right now, or doing stuff right now. So if you sit and you think about what you're doing, if you think about the long term, but like it may start off now, but then like if I like down the line I'll have nothing. Like dropping out like selling drugs. Like in the now, you might have all this money, but you get caught one time and it's all taken away from you. But like if you stay in school and you do what you're supposed to, you get a degree and everything, that one thing that happens, it can't knock down your school years and everything. So it's all just, it's all how you look at it. Don't just don't look at it one way. Look at it in all different types of ways.
And what advice would you give to a young person?
You know, just stay out of trouble, stay away from the negative people, and just be yourself, don't change, stay in school.
That's important. So stay out of trouble, be yourself, don't change, and stay away from negative people.
Yeah, like, and just, you know, find them people that you, like, really can.
Positive.
Yeah, but even though, like, they can be a bad influence, but you still can change both of y'all selves by helping each other.
So be a positive influence too.
Yeah.
That's important. That's definitely important. One last question. What do you all want to be when you grow up?
Well, I'm kind of in between things. I kind of want to be a doctor because that's what my parents pushed me to. My dad wants me to be a doctor and my mom wants me to be a forensic scientist. But for me, I want to be an electrical engineer because I like working with my hands, you know, building things and taking things apart.
How about the both of you?
Me, I thought about well, when people ask me this, I just give them the answer, like, living an average life.
Living an average life.
And the average life is, to me, is like, you know, going to college, get a job, and, you know, just hang out, just live your life.
Enjoy life.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
but
good.
how I see it, like, I do want to play basketball, but too many people want to do that, so no, I can hold off on that.
Okay, okay. How about you?
I'm kind of stuck between two things. Like, I really wanted to go into law, become a lawyer because I really like debating, and I'm good at it. My mom thinks I'm good at it. A lot of people at the school think I should join a debate team. I beat people that are in the debate team at my school in debates.
Wow.
But I also want to go into business because, like, I like the thought of business and things like that, and I want to learn more about it. It's really interesting to me.
Okay. Well, thank you to all three of you for actually participating in today's conversation. There's somebody who's watching who has been impacted by some of the things that you've said, hopefully in a positive way. So thank you so much. And at this time, we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Brethella Quick. I'm a registered nurse and community activist. I want to talk to you a little bit today about some of the residual effects of violence in our community. As a registered nurse doing home health, I've gone into many homes that have people, young adults, who were the victims of gun violence. And these young people, and when I say young, I mean under 25, are going from healthy, happy, to now confined in beds, not able to brush their teeth, get out of bed to wash themselves. They are totally and completely dependent on someone else to meet their needs. The parents in the homes of these patients that I see who are bedbound or crippled and in a wheelchair now have the responsibility of taking care of their loved one. And that's also painful to the parents. The residual effects of violence in our community are many. The biggest effect, or the most prevalent effect that we're seeing right now, is death. And the death of our youth absolutely represents the root of a tree. If you kill the root of a tree, then the tree is no more. Therefore, if our children are babies, and here recently we've had infants being killed by guns, if we continue to allow the root of the tree to die, then we will be no more. We will be extinct, because it then becomes a form of genocide that we are inflicting on ourselves. Other than death, we have the loss of limbs, we have the loss of eyes, we have confinement, as I said before, to wheelchairs, major surgeries, ongoing physical pain, and therapies. Today, we've got psychological impairments, which include the post-traumatic stress syndrome, depression, which could lead to low self-esteem, acting out at home, acting out in school and other social settings, anger, lack of respect for others, lack of motivation to pursue achievable and meaningful goals. And part of our issue, I think, is the media, because it's skewed to the left as it pertains to our communities, generally speaking. Our image is oftentimes portrayed in a negative light, which can result in negative self-esteem and behavior. It seems that it's absolutely by design and not likely to change unless we make a concerted effort to make the media change how they portray us. But it's not just the media, it's also parenting. It seems that the generation that is probably just behind my generation have lost something in terms of parenting skills. We want to be friends with our children instead of parents to our children. We oftentimes don't take the necessary measures to ensure that our children get the most out of school. It's not just the teacher's responsibility to educate our children in terms of manners, self-esteem, just being humble, and just being polite and kind to our children makes a difference in the home. Oftentimes, parents are guilty of neglect to the extent that they're not there when the child comes home and knowledgeable enough to help them with their homework, or find someone in the community who can actually tutor them. We use profane language to our children, we yell and scream at our children, and the best substitute for that is hugs and kisses. I'm speaking from experience. I'm a single mom. I raised my son, and I also raised 3 nieces. My nieces came to me as teenagers, somewhat wayward, but I smothered them with kindness, love, and discipline. It's very important. And because I carry myself a certain way, they had to respect me. And when you respect your children, they in turn will respect you. And it's not that if you respect them, you have to respect them. In closing, I would just like to say, from both a mother's point of view and a healthcare professional point of view, if we just allow ourselves the time to make a plan to make a difference in our children's lives using nurturance and support, we'll all be better off. I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you.
It's your boy Ace, a code entertainer. Take the I out of violence. That mean exclude me. Too many mothers out here crying. It's crazy in these streets. It's hard growing up in the city so cold, but we can stop the violence, man. We can take control. Instead of hating on them, just be grateful for what you got. And if you ain't got nothing, make the moves to be on top. And put the guns down. No more innocents getting shot. And stop the hurtful words, man. The bullying gotta stop. How many people do I gotta lose to this war? Instead of seeking God, you seek the pistol in the drawer. It's time to stand up. No more lives being lost. Another friend gone just ain't worth any cost. Take the I out of violence. Yep, that's you. The power's in your hand, homie. What you gonna do? It's your boy Ace, a code entertainer.
Hello, I'm Illinois State Senator Maddie Hunter, and I'd like to thank Governor Pat Quinn for providing funding for sorely needed anti-violence community programs and this cable program to help offset the antisocial activity in my district. This program seeks to broadcast what 6th through 9th graders have to say about violence in their lives, their communities, their schools, their homes, and we encourage them to take the I or themselves out of violence. We'll give particular attention to the West Englewood, and Bronzeville communities. We encourage your children, students, church members, or neighbors to share in the cable show via social media. It's a great after-school program, and we encourage you to join them in watching and to invite others to watch with their children.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Taking the I Out of Violence television program. To learn more information about this program, please visit www.takingtheeyeoutofviolence.com. Have a wonderful week.